How is the best way to scale your travel business? As advisors, we find ourselves at a fork in the road. Business is growing and we are making money, but we are probably feeling overwhelmed, overworked, and potentially approaching burnout. What is the best choice for your travel business when you are looking to manage what is expected of you and also scale your business to be able to serve more clients and make more money? I'm Brianna, the owner of Milk and Honey Travels, and this is a podcast for us, by us, where we have deep conversations with honest answers. Nothing is off limits here. Thank you for being here, and let's dive in. So today, I'm so excited to chat with Erica Carr of Book It Box Travel. Erica, I am not exactly sure when our paths crossed for the first time. I can tell you that I've admired you from afar, like since I knew you existed. And the more I get to know you and the more we get to chat, I'm like, yep, I like you. You're about your business. I love that. I love how you approach your brand. And so there's so many things that I just like admire. And I felt like, hey, being able to bring you onto the podcast is going to be super helpful and interesting. I think we approach business in very similar ways, and that's going to be really helpful for people that are listening. And so I'm so excited to have you. Thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with me.
Thank you. And oh my gosh, the feeling is so mutual. I have been following you on social media for so long, and I'll admit I have like a brand crush on Milk and Honey Travels. And so you just do such a great job on social media, and I kind of
Thank
fell in love
you.
with you just from your social presence, and then our mutual friend Autumn, kind of
Autumn.
connected
I love
us.
Autumn. She's so great.
Yes, same. And so now I'm just so thankful that we're
Yeah.
here in real life together, kind of in real life.
Kind of real life, digital real life, which is sometimes it feels more real than real life, right?
Absolutely.
So I love what I've heard you talk about it, and I've kind of like seen it on your website and stuff, but I love the origin of Book It Box Travel. And can we start there? Because I think that explains a lot about who you are and how you've approached your business from day one. And also, like I mentioned, your approach to branding is very unique and it stands out, which I love. And I think it's so important. And selfishly, I'm going to just be really, really honest. I have shown my team, like, look at her boxes, like, look at what she's doing. Look at this. And I don't know how you do it, quite frankly, at this level and volume of business that you're still doing it, but kind of just give us the origin of like your travel business and how you came to be in this industry, because for the both of us, I think we were like doing something else, living our lives, and then found ourselves as travel advisors, and now we're figuring it out, which is great because we can kind of do it on our own terms. But how did you get into the industry?
Totally organically, which is what
Yeah.
I love about this. So, I love the Enneagram. I'm an Enneagram 1. I'm a firstborn. I'm a self-proclaimed control freak. And so I spent about 20 years in the orthodontic industry. I was in sales, selling software to orthodontic practices, and always had this drive and passion to be an entrepreneur. And so I kept trying to find what that avenue was going to be. I thought it was going to be most likely in the orthodontic space because that's where
Mm-hmm.
I'd grown up, post college. And then organically, we had friends who bought tickets to Barcelona and didn't have time to plan their trip. And that's where I stepped in.
Mm-hmm.
Could not take the fact that they were going to get on a plane and go spend 10 days in Barcelona without a plan.
Without a
So
plan, that is so mind-boggling to me as well. It's like personally offensive, right?
yes, it like literally was making my skin crawl. So I finally was like, listen, give me your credit card and how much I can spend and like let me do this. And so I did. And I always say because I can't do anything the easy way, I went to Hobby Lobby and bought a box and I put a bunch of fun stuff in it for them. And that's really where the box concept came in. Totally
Mm.
again organic and by accident. And it's such a big part of what we do. And how I manage it is team. And
Mm-hmm.
ironically, that's what we're going to talk about today. But I literally cannot do it all by myself. And so I try to find people who are good at, assembling the boxes and people who are good at all of the different tasks within my business so that everybody can kind of stay in their lane and I can stay in my lane.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I think so. You said a couple of things that are super important. And I think that I really resonate with them is number one, I think those of us that start as we start our travel business, but we have an entrepreneurial mindset and we find travel as like the avenue that we're just going to like use to explore and and kind of satisfy that entrepreneurial need. And I think that allows us to have a really unique approach to how we do business and how we grow and how we scale. And so that's really cool because I think it helps us be successful, quite honestly. It's more than about like, yes, we can plan a great trip. Like, absolutely, yes, I'm putting my hat in the ring. But the business side of this is really important. And so approaching it with an entrepreneurial mindset is the thing that really, really makes a difference. So I love that. And like she said, we really kind of want to dive in deep today about how to grow a team, why you need a team, and the best. Listen, there's, what is the saying? A lot of roads to Rome, or something like that. There's a lot of different ways to be successful. That's the point. But I think we have an opportunity here to really kind of unpack what it means to have a team of people that are supportive, and that really elevate what you have built and the vision that you have. And in comparison to, hey, I'm needing help, I'm overwhelmed, I guess I need ICs type of a conversation. So I love that we're going to go down that road today. So what point did you get kind of like, hey, I started this business, I'm building these boxes, and then I'm doing every other thing under the sun to have a successful business, wearing my 27 hats? What point was it in your journey that you got to the point of like, I cannot do this by myself and I need help?
It was pretty quick. So I full-time started Book It Box in April of 2019, and I brought on a virtual assistant, which was my first hire. I brought her on in that summer. So I mean,
Oh,
literally it
wow.
took 3 months. But I will say I'm also a huge believer in hiring ahead of growth. And
Mm,
I saw the growth coming, and so I wanted to hire before I got there.
mm-hmm,
So that was my first hire, a virtual assistant that summer, and then my first like W-2 hire was after COVID. Whenever I saw like the post-COVID craze coming, so
mm-hmm.
that would have been in 2021.
Mm. And with that hire, was there a specific role you were trying to fill? Was it just kind of like, I just need an extra set of something to help me kind of manage, and I'll figure out kind of like what task she's going to do or how we're going to set this up after the fact? Did you kind of like already have the idea, or did you go into it and then figure out the idea as you kind of went along?
So I had the idea. I personally feel like my strengths is on the very front end, marketing,
Hmm.
client acquisition, getting clients to pay our fees, things like that. And so I really wanted somebody to come in after the client paid the design fee to kind of pick up the client from there and take
Hmm.
them through the journey of proposals, deposits, final payments, all of that. And so Kelly Heck was my first hire. And so we
Hmm.
call that a travel designer role. So we now have 3 travel designers on the team.
I'm so excited to learn more about this. Okay, because not similar to you, I really didn't know what I was hiring for at first. Just kind of more like, yep, I need to. Actually, let's just be really honest. I was 6 months pregnant. I knew that like life was about to change, and I was like, yeah, you are not doing all the things that you used to do. I had a virtual assistant at that time, but I needed somebody who was like in it, right? Who I could basically download my brain to, and somehow everything would be okay. And so I guess I did have my feet to the fire in that regard. And I wasn't as forward thinking as you, but in that, because of a maternity leave, I really was like, yep, somebody's going to have to come in and learn how to do all the things A to Z outside of course, yes, I'll have the phone call, I'll, close the sale, I'll do all of those things that someone forward facing and front facing and the brand of the business should and can do. But then, like, let me teach somebody else how to do all the rest because I am not that special. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really lovely, and I love the term travel designer. And so you started with her. It was
Kelly. Mm-hmm.
Kelly, and kind of just trained her from like, hey, this is the way of Book It Box. Like from here on out, like you just learn and figure it out from the moment the client says yes, we're on board, until their bon voyage, welcome home
Yeah.
email or whatever it is.
Yep, absolutely. So that's what we did, and really went into that hire with the intent of her eventually being the lead travel designer and having a
Mm.
team under her. And so that's, as we've grown, Kelly has become the lead travel designer. So she is still handling her own project workload while she's also leading the other two travel designers. And so that allows me to focus on big picture, big business, types of things instead of
Yay,
more
yay, yay.
project. Yes.
Okay, I say this, I love selfishly having these conversations because I'm like, yep, I'm right there and I need to do that next step. And how is it done? And how does it work? And so now I get to get like firsthand information from you on how that works. So this is fabulous. So at the point now, Kelly has been with you, gosh, when was COVID?
It,
4 years?
yeah. So it'll be gosh, what year is it? What
I
month is
know,
it? Is it
right?
still January?
Well,
No, it'll be
I hope
3 years.
not.
No, it'll be 3 years in
3 years.
April.
Okay. Wonderful. And so you hired her. She learned the whole system. She got up to speed of being able to do all of that workflow from after, after the sale is closed, so to speak. And then you guys are working together in tandem. Everything is going well, and Book It Box is still growing and gaining more clients and riding this boom of travel after post pandemic, etc. And then you're like, great, we need even more help.
That's right.
And so that's amazing. So then the other people that you like went out to search, it was also for that like travel designer role specifically, yes?
It was. At that time, we still had our virtual assistant on board. So then we hired Kim, who's our second travel designer. And then Krista came on board. And then at that time, I kind of knew that the virtual assistant role, I needed to bring somebody on who was exclusive to Book It Box Travel. Our VA
Mm.
was working for, Book It Box plus several other
Mm-hmm.
advisors. And so we set out to find two client and travel designer support roles. So someone to, just support those people and do things like invoicing, Travifies, all of the kind of magic behind the curtain, if you will. So we set out
Mm-hmm.
to hire for that role. And I had such a great pool of candidates that we ended up hiring two people, Donna and Haley, who I'm so thankful now that that happened and it's worked out perfectly. So really our structure is we've got three travel designers, we have two client and travel designer support roles, and so Donna and Haley are assigned to a project based on the destination and which travel designers on it, so
Mm.
they work in tandem together.
So they're technically able to work. Are they first, or I guess just trying to understand, are the support people tied to a travel designer or more so tied to a trip? Or is that the same thing?
So how we have it structured is Kelly and Haley work together on international trips.
Okay.
Kim and Donna work together on Caribbean and Mexico trips. And then Krista either works with Donna or Haley, depending on where the trip is to, because she kind of
Okay.
does international and resort bookings. So it gives
Wonderful.
everybody the opportunity to kind of work with everybody. And it
Mm-hmm.
also gives Haley and Donna the opportunity to do both international as well as domestic Mexico Caribbean. So everybody is kind of cross trained across the board.
And they're learning then about different destinations and the suppliers and the partners that you work with and having that relationship kind of like, oh, they know that name because they've seen it, in their inbox and et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And also I think because, you have the clients and like one year they did a European vacation and then maybe they come back and then now they're doing their week in the Caribbean or something like that. And
Exactly.
so, having, that's good. That's good. Okay. So you're the founder. Kind of walk me through at this point now, what does your role look like, and what do you kind of like, and your day to day, and what you kind of like have structured your zone of genius to be in this kind of ecosystem, if you will.
Well, it's funny. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, Keely Culpepper, and I was explaining our structure and this travel designer role. And after I kind of explained it, she paused and she said, "Well, so if they're doing all that, what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, good question. I don't know, but I work all the time, like I'm doing something." So,
Right, right.
so really, again, I'm a stay in your lane person, and my lane is really big picture, marketing, client acquisition. So I'm doing all the consultation calls. I'm sending
Mm.
off the trip request to the
Mhm.
supplier. And when I send off that trip request, that's when the travel designer and that support role gets looped in. So it's kind of the handoff, if you will, the project handoff to the travel designer and support role team members. And then I'm of course overseeing everything. I mean, I'm still, looking at proposals when they come back in and giving feedback. So it's not like I completely step away and it just, you know, gets handed over.
Right.
I'm still looking at all of that. But,
Right.
when you're scaling quickly and you've got 100 and something trips a year, you can't be in all of them. Like
You absolutely
you
cannot.
have to
Yeah.
do this. And I think what's really interesting about our industry, and we're seeing, thankfully, especially post COVID, so much change in terms of just the travel advisor role in the industry and even technology with turn coming and all these things. But, I
Mhm.
think that we as an industry have hired the same way for so long, and we have to start rethinking about different ways to grow your teams. There is a
Mhm.
different way to grow your team other than bringing on independent contractors.
Mhm.
And I think the really critical part of this is realizing that there are different people out there and different personalities that fit and want different types of roles. You and I are entrepreneurs. We're okay with working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. We're okay with all of the weight on our shoulders that it takes to run a business. There are a lot of people
Mhm.
that run away from that. They want to be an employee role. And so, we can think differently in the industry about how we grow our teams.
Yeah. And I think for advisors kind of listening and thinking that like, oh wow, once I'm overwhelmed and I can't kind of continue on, and do I need an IC or do I need an employee, and to really rethink how my business is structured, that idea that somebody can be in your business assisting with virtually all the things that you do if you train them well and if they understand the mission and the vision that you've created, could create such a seamless experience for not only the clients but for you and your business, that's so much more helpful, I think, than an IC who's kind of like doing their thing, but what has that taken off of your plate within the actual workflow that is required for each and every client? Because at the end of the day, also what I think is important is that there are so many tasks, but there are $10 tasks and there are $1,000 tasks, right? And if your time is spent doing a whole bunch of $10 tasks at a certain stage of business, that is such a waste of your time and your energy. And probably not in your zone of genius. I can very much attest to the fact that invoicing is not in my zone of genius.
Same.
And never do I ever want to. I'm like, what is my client base login? I don't know.
Yes. Yes. And thankfully,
And I don't want
for
to
that.
know.
No,
Yes, I
no.
don't ever want to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is doing yourself a disservice, but also your business a disservice if you stay in those tasks that are not your zone of genius and that also don't really move the needle in growing and scaling your business, because that growth and scale takes space that is outside of like the day-to-day tasks, right? It's outside of the like, all these things, yes, need to be done, but if you are doing them, you have no space and no time to do the things that actually move the needle. So that's super important for people to kind of like think through and really find their way in.
Yeah. And, I think it depends on what your motive is and what your motivation is. So I think if you have a travel
Mm,
business and your sales number and maybe making it into the top 10 or the top 40 of your host agency, like if that's your motivator, then the IC model can
mm-hmm.
work for you because
Right.
they're adding sales, right? But if you really sketch it out on paper, how much money do you actually make from your IC? It's not.
Versus the time that you have to pour into
Yes,
them.
it's not a lot, and so that's why I went down this other route, and we do have an IC on board because she was the right fit, and I thought, let's see how this works, and it's going beautifully, but I think, for me, I'm money motivated. I
Mhm.
I'm very straight line theory, like, and money motivated. And
Mhm.
so for me, the
Mhm.
IC model just didn't make sense. I
Yeah.
also, one of the questions I get a lot from advisors or travel business owners is, I think there's a lot of hesitation about my model with this travel designer role, and like, ooh, but people are hiring you and you're going to hand them off to somebody else. And my answer to that is, it's all in how you handle the handoff, right? So
Right.
oftentimes when you buy a software platform or you do anything, you work with a salesperson in the front end of the deal. And once that deal is closed, they hand you off to an implementation specialist. And so, this happens all the time out there in every industry. And so, why can't it happen in ours?
Right.
And so, you know, during the consultation call with a client, I talk about my team. We're a team of 8, we work together. I talk about our travel suppliers, and I let the client know, for your project, Kelly and Haley will be your main points of contact. I'm always in copy. I'm always here and available for you. I will be doing an e-introduction to them for you. So, as long as you set it up the right way, it's fine. And then, of course, as long as your people are taking care of your clients, everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. I love that you said that because it's literally at our end of year meeting, planning for 2024, when we were discussing how now, like, each client experience is going to have 3 different people on our team interacting. They're going to be client facing because it makes the most sense. I'm very anti, like, making me the middleman for no reason, or like, you've just done the work and now you're forwarding it to me so I could just rewrite the email and forward it to them. That has wasted
Right.
everybody's time. And so how can we make sure that, like, the client understands what's going on and they feel supported and they understand what the experience is like, and also we know each of our roles, and so we're doing our thing and we're in our lane, and at the end of the day the whole client experience is what we want it to be. That's a beautiful thing. And so, did that kind of like work for you from the beginning? Because I feel like I'm just now kind of like, because now there's like a third person that's interacting, I'm trying to make sure that, thinking through it from the client perspective, thinking through it from, the DMC perspective, thinking through it to make sure that, like, my eyes stay on whatever, that I
Mhm.
know all the things that I need to know, and I'm aware of, like, where my clients are actually traveling and what they're doing and stuff like that. So talk me through kind of like how it's worked out, and maybe if you found, like, okay, we started doing it like this and then we realized, oh no, because I love the idea of talking about it on the consultation call, like putting it out there. It is really about how you communicate it. It's not that what you do versus what you don't do. It's how you communicate it and how you show, hey, this is of value to you, the fact that you have multiple people making this experience amazing. So did you kind of just like hit it out of the park from the beginning, or did you have any growing
Never.
pains?
Always growing pains, darn it. Those darn growing pains. No, and I think what's really critical on having a team is establishing who's delegated to what task, because if you're not really clearly defined in who does what task, it's
Mhm.
just really confusing for everybody. A client emails and asks a question about travel
Yes.
insurance, and everybody's waiting to see who responds. Like, they have to know who takes that
Right.
task. So, I think as part of the workflow, you just have to go through and you have to assign tasks to every single person, on the team, so everybody
Yeah.
knows where they live.
Yeah, I think that's actually funny because I think that's another thing that we have in common, which, I am also waiting for turn to kind of be ready to go because I'm like, yes, baby Jesus. And then B, I think we both have used
Mhm.
Dubsado in the past and have tried to, like, really formulate a workflow that works for our business and that is, we're able to kind of utilize our team. And so in the same way, I think I used the same person that you recommended to me actually last year for an audit to, like, get it up, and it was like such a beautiful investment. I'm like, this is brilliant, why didn't I do
Yeah.
this before? But to make sure that it's very clear, every single step of the thing that we do is outlined in our workflow and with somebody's initials right at the front, so we all know who's doing the restaurants, who's doing the insurance, who's sending this email, who's responsible for this. It is very, very clear. And when those emails come from the client, we know, like, I don't have to worry about any, like you said, travel insurance email. I don't also know my login for Alliance, like, I'm like forward, forward, forward. And so that's fabulous. Let me ask you this, because this is one thing that I'm trying to kind of like, I kind of find myself in the like, how is this going to work? Because nobody remembers to reply all. So when I do like, hey, Kelsey CC'd or Alan CC'd, and then I get the response back, you didn't reply all. Okay, great. And I have to remember like, okay, shoot, do you have any tips or tricks for that? Because that has kind of been my little like,
Is
ugh.
this when a supplier responds or your team
It's
responds?
both. No, it's like when if I'm sending something to the client, like, hey, Milk and Honey team, it's me and Kelsey, and then like they just respond back to
Ah,
me. Or same thing, I'm sending like the request to the DMC, and then like I'm trying to get us to all go back and forth together, but then like they don't reply all. It's just a reply all. Like I
yeah.
feel like I don't know why people have trouble
Yeah,
with
you're
that.
like, can you just set your default to always reply all on your end over there so you
Yeah.
can stop having to loop everybody back in?
Right.
I don't know that I have an answer for you on that. I mean, I think what I do is reply back to the email, loop in whoever. I mean, if it's our suppliers, so we have recently, like, I've gone through any suppliers that we found where like in their on their side in their system it's just my email address, and we've had them update it to our distribution email address. So anytime, like, Ultimate Jet Vacation sends out one of their automated, hey, we just booked a VIP client at whatever to the property, it goes to all of
Mm.
us regardless, right? So but yeah, I don't know if I have an answer for you on how to.
Wait, well, you might have just had a semi answer, because what is a distribution email and how do you implement that?
So we just have an additional email address. So it's, team at bookatboxtravel.com. And so that is what's connected to
Mm,
our Dubsado. So everybody gets those emails. And
hmm.
then that is also, it's that email address is landing in everybody's inbox. So if a supplier has team
Gotcha.
at in their system, anytime they email, everybody across the team gets it.
Gotcha. Okay, I do not have that step. See, I learned something new. I'm
There you
so
go.
excited. Awesome. Okay, so when you're thinking about these types of people that you're looking for that are really going to be a great addition to your team, that are really going to bring value, that are going to be able to do the job well, talk to me about what type of people you have found that work best. Because are these people that are like, oh my gosh, I just need my foot in the door, I'm trying to start my own thing, but I don't have any experience, so here I am, I'm going to go learn from BookitBox and learn from Erica, and then I'll be ready to go and start my own travel business? I'm thinking not, but what kind of people like have you found that work really well, and what motivates them?
So I have had some bad hires, and so I've learned growing pains learned. But I think the most important thing is, again, Enneagram. Like, I've found that certain
Mm,
types of Enneagrams work best with me and my personality. And so that is something that I have on the
mm.
join the team form is, what Enneagram number are you? And tell me what that means for you. Um, Also, I think for the travel designer role and the client support role, it happens to be moms who were staying at home with their kiddos before, and they really wanted something that was for themselves. And so they wanted some, and so
Mm.
that's worked really well for us, because it is, all of our people are part-time. They're about 20 hours a week. And so it works well for them being moms and being able to be with their kids and also, have something that's fulfilling for them.
I love that.
I have a hiring kind of um, exercise list. So when someone does come to our website and they fill out the join the team form, once they submit the form, Dubs Auto prompts me. I review their kind of submission form, if you will, and if it looks like they might be a fit, I send them the first exercise. And that first exercise is a link to a Travify that has a bunch of mistakes in it. And I tell them to
Yeah.
review. So, part of what we do is a quality assurance check before our clients travel. And so we're looking through the itinerary to make sure it's perfect. Look through this itinerary and let me know what's wrong with it. And so that exercise helps me to see, a, how detail oriented are they, obviously, how many things do they find incorrect in that Travify, but it also allows me to see how they present it back to me. Do they send me an email that's
Mm.
unorganized? Do they do do they do
Mm-hmm.
it in Google Slides? So it shows me how they present. And then from there, if everything looks good, the second exercise step is a client matchup. So I give them a client profile and I give them 3 resorts to choose from, and they have to tell me which resort they would choose for the client.
I love that because it's like it's there's so much that we can teach, right? Like, hey, I can teach you how to use Dubsado, I can teach you how to use Travefy, but at the same time, you still need people that have some sense of like, matchmaking or like quality assurance, like things like that that are just like crucial to the role. Like if you can't notice that this is missing, there's no start time to this tour, or things like
Right.
that, then we're starting at a real deficit here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think the biggest thing, like in our industry, and you just have, like, I'm like, if you're not a psycho about the details, bye. Because if you're
Yeah,
not a psycho about the
yeah,
details,
it's not
it's
going to
not going to
work.
work. And if you can leave your desk with tasks that are unfinished, like, you're probably not a fit either. And I'm not saying, it's like
Yeah,
the crucial tasks, they have to be done. So all of us have in
yeah.
common that we're psychos about the details and we hate having a task undone. Like, it just eats us up.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Curiously, what type of Enneagrams have you found work best with you and your type of personality, or just like in the travel business
Enneagram 2. So I'm
space?
an Enneagram 1. Enneagram 2s are the best
Ah,
fit. Yeah, because they're just helpful.
those are
Yes,
like the
they're
helpers,
helpful in
right? Yes,
nature.
yes.
Um, they're sweet and kind and loving, which that's what we want for our clients. We want them to love.
Great with
Yeah, and
people. Yeah.
so the Enneagram 2 has been a great fit.
That's wonderful. Okay, really good. And so you said something about like having this, join our team on your website. Does that mean kind of like you're open to the idea of bringing on people whenever you come across somebody that could be a good fit? You're like, hey, okay, like let's come on board and be a part of it. You're kind of like leaving the door open for just like when the right people find you, then you'll make space for them type of a
Absolutely. I
thing.
mean, it's so hard to find good people.
Okay.
And so Krista, our third travel
Yeah.
designer, came to me, you know, sh- I think I want to get into the travel industry. Will you talk to me? And I had a conversation with her, kind of said, this is how it works. And these are the ways that you can enter the travel business. And she said, I want to be an employee. I don't want to be an IC. I don't want to open my own
Mm-hmm.
brand. And so she was so great that we weren't looking for anybody, but here she is. And lo and behold, she's busy as all get out.
I kind of love that because it is like that. It's not the scarcity mindset. It's kind of like the abundance mindset, right? Like if I hire a great person who can do this job well, there will be business to
Yeah.
keep them
Yeah.
busy, basically. Like, and also like you're not holding everything kind of like tight fisted. You're kind of like, yep, it'll come because I now have the capacity on my team to handle it. So it kind of is like that abundance, like approach to, yeah, if it's a good fit, we'll find the work.
Absolutely.
We'll
I mean,
find the
don't let them
trips.
slide anywhere else. You find somebody good, you figure
That
it
is
out.
really good. Yes, I really, really, really love that approach. Okay, so if you keep growing utilizing that strategy, is it more so people coming in, or and maybe it has to be both on that like travel designer level? Um, and then kind of like you still have those couple of people who are just doing like the great support of what they're doing type
Yeah,
of a
we'll
thing,
keep growing. The two teams would grow concurrently together, right? Because if we
kind
hire
of
a travel
together.
designer,
Okay.
we've got to have more support and vice versa. So we'll keep growing them together. And again, like, as good people come along, I'm open. I'm open to hiring that way and growing that way.
And then what do you think that means for you as like the lead and the person who does all the consults and really closest to sales? I mean, uh how big can this model grow with you, right? Like you still have such an important and critical role of being the person who's like, yep, like let's talk about your trip. Let's have that consultation. And because you're so great at sales, like let's close these sales. I have the team in place who can handle like the work, but is there a capacity limit of like how many trips can you do when you have to talk
Yeah,
to that many
I mean,
people to even,
until
you know
my
what I
head
mean?
pops off, I don't know. Like, I'm always willing to push the limits, but I just told my husband over coffee today, I was like, I've got, like January obviously is such a crazy inquiry month for us in the industry. And, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
there has to come a time where like we stop taking new clients for a minute so that we can make sure that we are servicing those clients properly. But I also think as it
Hmm.
just ebbs and flows the right way. But I don't know what the answer to your question is. I mean, but I'm always extremely cautious about where we're at project and workload wise, because obviously, the only marketing that we do is loving on our clients. We don't do any other marketing. Our social media is
Hmm.
really geared to sell luxury and to keep attracting the right types of clients, but like we have enough clients. So it's just a matter of
Hmm.
like managing the workload that we have in a really good way.
Yeah, because I feel like this past year, the number of trips we did, I think was what, like
Mm.
130, which felt so overwhelming from a like, do you know how many people I had to talk to close
Yeah.
130 trips? That feels like, oh, and I'm an introvert. So also that many conversations for me is like,
Yeah.
I'm done, I'm drained. But at the end of the day, like this is why I think I'm even leaning more into that kind of like, okay, we have our team of three that was able to handle that capacity, but I am now like way less in anything else if I'm gonna have to, essentially sell and close that many sales. There's there's limits to what else I can do outside of that. And so I think that it is just, again, me selfishly kind of trying to figure out like, hey, what's the capacity, and or how do I what else do I look at to shift, because there's so many levers, right? When we look about how to be profitable, how to grow, how to scale, there's a lot of different levers that we can kind of like push or pull or whatever you do to a lever to kind of like move the needle. But yeah, that kind of thinking through like where we're at and what is possible in terms of like growth and what
Hmm.
comes next type of a thing.
Yeah, and maybe that's a salesperson, I mean, maybe that's the answer at some
Mm.
point because we can only do so much. So I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet, but maybe we can podcast again in a couple of years and we'll be there and we can
And yeah,
enlighten
we'll let you
the
guys know.
experts in travel universe on what we figured out. We'll figure it out
Right,
together.
right, right.
Yeah.
Here's what's
Yeah.
next. I love it. I love it. Okay, let's chat money for a second, because I think the thing that people get tripped up on again when they're looking to scale and when they're looking to grow is like, hey, if somebody's doing this role of travel advisor, it needs to be a commission split. Um, and it
It
does
does
not.
not.
This is kind of what you're
Yes.
hearing us
It does
say.
not.
This is, and because I honestly think, like, yeah, like, because you do also have an IC. I'm assuming she's bringing in her own
Correct.
book of business, right? Like she's acquiring clients on her own. And so, yes, okay, fine, commission split. But if you, as the business owner, are the one responsible for the lead gen, for the closing of the sales, that's, and the people are fulfilling the work in order to, like, do the job, that doesn't
Yeah,
have
of
to be a
course.
commission split.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, that's just a mindset shift I think that a lot of people
Yeah,
need
and
to
I think
make,
as
right?
entrepreneurs, our brains are like, well, why would somebody want to be an hourly wage employee if there's commission? But like that, again, it's that personality thing. It's hiring the right person for the right job. There's a lot of people out there, they hate selling. They don't want to sell. You know, yeah, hate it.
Hate
Run
it.
the other
Yes.
direction. So, yeah, 100%. So our team is all on a hourly rate. And then I have also introduced a travel bonus program for our travel designers. And
Mm.
so that essentially is money that I dump into an account for each of them that they can use towards brand congruent travel. And it is based on our
Good.
sales. So they essentially start out with
Okay.
some money in the account at the beginning of the year, and then at each $1 million threshold that we hit, they get extra money in their account. So it's really great because it helps them to travel in a luxury way, which we don't all do on our own. And so it really
Hmm.
gives them insight into how we're planning travel for our clients, right? but it also gives them money
Mm-hmm.
that's fun for them to spend and travel. So that's one thing. And then the other is commission sharing. So I was starting to see the team bring in their own, bring referrals to the business. And I did want to reward them for that. And so for the first, when
Mm-hmm.
they bring a client to Book It Box, on the first trip that that client does with us, they do get a 25% commission kickback as a thank you on the first.
Wonderful. And so I think what I hear you saying, and also just like for people to kind of take note of, is that there's ways to incentivize a team outside of just like a blanket commission split. This is what they're going to need, or else they're not going to be happy. There's ways to incentivize a team that recognizes their role as an employee, but also kind of makes them feel that they have skin in the game, that they are getting rewarded for the great work that the business is doing, that they're able to even, especially I love like the travel or brand congruent travel, because that is really, really important. I mean, you got to think like myself included, like when I even started in this business, that wasn't the way I traveled. I had traveled a whole lot, but let me tell you, I'm not selling those types of properties. So it was just, I could show you my passport stamps, but I would not show you much else.
Yeah, and so
So
you gotta see
that's
it and
important.
experience
Yeah.
it to get it, right? Like we all had that moment where we were like, "Oh, there's a different way to travel. There is something to like the experience of a five-star luxury property." And so it's a really good way to glimpse them into that. But, again, I think it's like the five love languages. It's like any other relationships that we have in our lives, whether it's with our partners or our kids, parents, employees, whoever. You've got to know what motivates them. And so I think for a lot of the ladies on my
Mm-hmm.
team, being a part of a team and having something that fulfills them is a lot of what they're looking for. They are not money motivated, right? Like I am. And so just
Mm-hmm.
knowing when you're hiring somebody, what motivates you? Is it a pat on the back
Yeah, that could
question?
literally be a question that you really dig into in the interview process, because there's not a right or wrong answer. There's
Yeah.
just a better answer for your team, and there's a better answer that's going to fit. And long term, everybody's going to be happy, and everybody's going to feel satisfied and fulfilled in the role that they're doing, and then how they are getting compensated appropriately. Like it just really is about motivation and you understanding, hey, this is it. I get it, and yeah, I can agree to that type of a thing, and they can agree to it
Yep.
as well, and everybody's happy. I love that. I love that. I hope that what we've done today is really just have for everybody listening an honest conversation just about like not only what we've done in our own business, but also just giving people something to think about as they are growing and as they are scaling and as they are kind of like taking a look at what comes next. I think a couple of important things that you said that I want to make sure that people just took note of is number one, the idea of doing this before you're ready, so quote unquote, or like being front. What
Hiring
is the
ahead of
word I'm looking
growth.
for? Like front. Yes, 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 yes. If you believe that what you're doing is gonna work, like the growth will be there. Like believe that if you are good at what you do, the growth will be there, and so it'll feel a lot better to hire before you feel underwater, before you feel burnt out, and you'll have the people in place and the team in place that is going to help the business run smoother, the clients to have a better experience, you to feel better as the CEO and the leader, all of those things. So hiring before growth. Finding what motivates the people that you're hiring so that you keep that in mind and that you are making sure that the people feel like what they bring to the table is valued and that they also feel like they find value in what they're doing. That's super important. And then, yeah, that there's a lot of different ways that success can look. And this particular kind of model that Erica has shared is really, really intriguing because I feel like, wow, your clients are getting a great experience. You have 8 people supporting like what you've built and your vision and your dream. And it's a team, right? Like that feels great too. Like to have everybody kind of like we're all moving towards that same goal and that same direction with that same vision. Like that is a cool feeling. And so it's possible to have that within a travel business. It doesn't have to be each man for themselves, like you make your money, I make my money type of a thing. It really can be collaborative. And there's really a lot of like that's a cool thing to feel. And it's also like going to really help you if you are money motivated. That bottom line, it really kind of makes a difference.
I
So
think it's just
I love it.
important for us to not box ourselves in. Just because the industry has done things the same way for decades and decades doesn't mean that's how we have to keep doing it. We can do it however we want. This is our business.
Mm-hmm.
And so, be open
Mm-hmm.
to looking at different ways of growing your business.
Well, you said we don't have to box ourselves in, and I feel like that's very apropos for Miss Book It Box Travel.
I swear.
I love it. So appropriate. So appropriate. Miss Erica Carr teaching us how to think outside the box. Erica, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your brilliance, for giving us just a different perspective on how to grow, how to be successful, how to kind of like reach that next level in our business and do it in a way that feels good and that not only serves our team, but serves our clients really, really well. So thank you for sharing with us today. I really, really
so much fun.